This channel is supported by Truefire. Truefire is an online library
enough, you can get the Truefire All Access Pass for as cheap as they ever do it, the $99 thing. So just jump and do that if you're looking for the best price you can get Truefire All Access for.
So this year, I kind of, it's been coined by subscribers, Telecaster derangement syndrome. And it was spurred on by trying my buddy Jake's Nacho. Now, I did a video on that the other day. I think that for me might be the perfect Telecaster. I've got my own Nacho, which I do really like. I'm at the point now where I feel like my Telecaster gas has subsided. And I'm also at the point of reflecting on this experiment and wondering whether, given the choice, would I do it all the same again? Or if you're coming to this video and thinking like, are these kinds of guitars worth it? Then this is kind of a video kind of talking about some of that stuff. So I guess what I would say first of all is the Nacho Experiment was less about necessarily ending up with lots and lots of Telecasters and was more about a downsizing kind of project where I had quite a lot of guitars in the house, many of which I didn't feel very strongly about at all, and I thought, well, it'd be better off if those went to move on to pastures greener with other players. And that was kind of the impetus behind it. So I started selling guitars with it in mind that if a Nacho popped up, that I would take the plunge. Now, this one came up for sale at Coda Music. It happens that shortly after that, Guitar Point, which is a German retailer, had another one come up, which in some ways was closer to Jake's in terms of spec and build time. I think that was 2017. In some ways it was already too late, as I bought this one from Coda, and then in other ways it was also too late because I was like, well, I should ask about this, and then I didn't buy that one, and for obvious reasons. Like, this is sort of, for me, like the most expensive guitar that I'd ever bought by like 2 times, and you know, would I ever spend this much money on a guitar again? I'm pretty sure I wouldn't. I had the opportunity to get on the build list for another one, and I kind of just thought, actually, do you know what? Let's just stick. I don't want to kind of twist and try again. So anyway, so is there something to this? And when you play all of these types of guitars, you know, back to back and stuff like that, I think you definitely get a sense for how different a guitar can be, even though it's the same sort of shape and stuff. Like, the neck on this, I think, is very comfortable feeling in the moment, and very unique feeling in the moment. If you've not played a V-neck, they're quite a... I really like the feel of it in the hand. And what's weird to me about this as well is, like, the Sire is the only one actually that has some really substantially different specs in terms of having locking tuners, stainless steel frets, and compensated bridge. Everything else, you know, partly because they're vintage style guitars, but really, like, the fundamental differences between them are pretty insubstantial. Like, the differences are actually more about man hours spent on the guitar. This neck is the fattest of them all. And the Fender neck pickups are actually a bit brighter, I found, than either the Nacho or the Sire. And the thing that you find with the custom shop stuff and the more expensive guitars, to me it seems like the more unusual potentially their neck shapes get. So, like, the Sire is going to be sort of like a neck shape which is inoffensive, I would suggest, to most. Likewise with this, so this is the Vintera 60s Telecaster, and I guess this to me is maybe, I think, the nicest neck shape of all of these, where it's like just a comfortable C. I think totally no one is going to find that, like, too chunky, but equally it's not, you know, too thin either. And I think that one's kind of ideal. And then the Nacho, because of the way that it's like that V-neck, is going to, I think, for some people, be a bit of a problem. Let's just check out a bridge. It's such a simple design. I think a lot of what is going to make a difference are just the fundamentals, like actual pickup choices. And I think this is just a reminder to me that you know, if money is no object, then there's definitely reasons to really appreciate both custom shop things and Nacho things, but I wouldn't turn my nose up at any other Telecaster, essentially. This does feel to me, because of a combination of neck shape and stuff, the most unique. I think it's probably the lowest output pickups. But yeah, that's kind of what I've come to conclude. Like, I think I'm done sort of buying Telecasters for the moment, really, and maybe for the foreseeable. Like, am I on the lookout for another Nacho? Absolutely not. I think this is a once in a lifetime sort of thing where it's like, look, I'm gonna put aside most logic and try a Nacho, and it happens to be, I think, for me, like bedding in like the most good-looking, ugly thing. You know, is this custom shop a guitar for life? I think for some people it could be, but you know, you'd have to get on with that neck shape. Again, you know, let me know if you're particularly looking for any of these types of guitars and consider emailing me. It's not necessarily the case that I have to keep these forever. But equally, like, if I'm being totally real with myself and you as a viewer, do I feel like these guitars are infinitely inferior? No, they're just like a little bit different. And in some ways, I think this is just going to be, frankly, a guitar which suits some people better. You know, it's probably going to intonate better. The frets are going to need dressing less often. My buddy Jake just had his Nacho dressed by Jeremy Garland. You know, and if you put a set of Ron Ellis pickups into this guitar, would it sound within the ballpark of a very expensive Blackguard? I'd have to imagine that there'd be definitely some element of being able to get that vintage sound, at least, from just chucking in, or maybe a set of Monty's pickups. They make great pickups. So yeah, it's just something for me to think about. And I think, to me at the moment, the sort of thinking that I'm on is, might it be a better idea to, if a guitar even needs it, maybe it doesn't, but pick up upgrades. Find a guitar, Tele, at any price point, whether it's like a Road Worn, the older Road Worns. I think the necks on those were super comfortable. The Nitro wasn't as sticky as on this newer one. Figure out, is there a set of pickups that I could put in here that would get me, 90% of the way to that sort of vintage Tele feel, and then just play it, gig it. I don't know. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Telegas, it can subside, so you don't have to spend all of your money on a Tele.